All right. This is a quick podcast, and you and I will discuss some stuff that's important in our lives and maybe in other people's life. So, first of all, you should tell me how's life in Canada.
Yeah, that's kind of okay. It's not that bad here in Canada. It can be hard at times for international students or people in work permit who are hustling. But there is a bright side to it as well. I think
Okay.
that is pretty good. I would say it's a mix of emotions. Sometimes you do feel kind of homesick,
Okay.
but I'm at that stage where
Mm.
you gotta move on with times and everything. And yeah, Canada's pretty good. The summer is pretty beautiful. We've got beautiful weather.
Yeah.
Can get very hot as well. Today it's really hot, but then when the temperatures cool down, we have long summer nights.
Okay.
The sun goes down at like 9:30, which
Mm.
is very unusual for tropical countries like us. But it gives you more room for recreational activities to go around and spend some time with friends or maybe with your better half and family time, etc., etc. So yeah, that's kind of good.
Okay. Is it like true about all the news that we see about students coming to Canada, but there are not enough jobs or opportunities for them?
It is actually true. I made to break it to all the listeners who are just tuning into our podcast. It is actually true. Um, to kind of keep it very briefly, this was mostly done post-COVID when when Canada specifically as a country was dealing with a lot of economic downturns, and maybe the government was trying to look at ways how to revive the economy. And it's not like immigrants have only come ever since or post-COVID. Canada is a
Okay.
country of immigrants. So you see a lot of Chinese people, you see a very big Indian diaspora, of course, and then you also have a lot of Filipino people coming in, you have Mexican people coming in. But Canada's history is built on immigration, but this huge surge of international students that happened post 2021, it's kind of taken a toll on the economy. I don't know I mean, what blueprint they got into because there's a housing crisis as well because there's not enough houses for the number of students that are living in Canada at the moment. And it's difficult for people to even get jobs. But I would say maybe those are mostly for part-time jobs because a lot of people, while international students are doing their studies, they also want to enroll. They also want to get some part-time experience and stuff like that. People work as baristas or they work at department stores. So when you have such a huge chunk of students coming in and but very less businesses, it becomes difficult, especially in smaller cities where I was before, and compared to Greater Toronto area where you at least have some more room for jobs. So yeah, it is economy wise it's pretty grim, but it's been stable for the last 2 months at least. At least that's what the central bank has uh, released recently that the economy is on its way up. But it's going to take a few years, I would say, before things kind of begin to settle down.
Okay. So, like, would you tell people now not to come to Canada, but if they are at all looking to study in other countries, but go to other countries?
I would absolutely suggest so. I would in fact tell people that unless they're coming here on PR or unless they're coming here with a job prospect, I would highly recommend them not to come to Canada. But unfortunately, the craze that is there in India and the dream that is sold by educational consultants and the picture that is painted is very different from the one that you find over here. I mean, I would consider myself very lucky and thankful for at least having a job as well as being able to manage my finances and lead a life. But unfortunately, there are people who are living in tents in Brampton and places like Mississauga. And so the dream that is sold is that you can come here, you'll get a job, and then you get a PR. But it's not that easy, and the road is very very tough. But unfortunately, a lot of these people don't prepare for that, and they're not told by counselors or whoever that's sending them. Unfortunately, India is always tilted towards coming abroad, irrespective of the struggles, which is a good thing in a way. But I would highly suggest going to countries like Germany or maybe Singapore and looking for other avenues in terms of going for studies, because there are places in Europe as well as other parts of the world where education is much more affordable, and then they can even look for ways in managing their finances, or if they even plan to stay back in the country long term. There are other countries I would say that they might want to explore, because the other factor that plays a huge role is the climate, because you have at least 4 to 5 months of harsh winters, or at least 3 to 4 months of harsh winters, and at least 2 to 3 months of cold weather, which people from Asia and that belt are not really accustomed to. So it can get even more difficult for people over here.
Right. So they're not used to the harsh winters.
They're not used to harsh winters. I mean, we are not used to harsh winters. And I mean, even in southern Ontario, where I am, which is the southernmost tip of Canada, the temperatures go down to as low as -23, -24 at times. And it stays like that. But there are colleges in northern Ontario, uh, like 1.5 hours, 3 hours from Toronto, where it is almost where it's even worse. Where it goes to like -40 degrees, -45 degrees, and it stays like that for a good 1 2 months with very frequent snowfall and snowstorms. And it can get very difficult, but at the same time, it can get very depressing as well, because we come from a place where we're not used to snow. And it might look all pretty and beautiful because of the way it's portrayed in movies, but snowfall can be a big hassle. It When you go weeks without the sun, it can be very depressing. It can take a toll on your mental health. It can affect your physiological health as well, and it can even prevent you from commuting, and there's a host of other things that gets affected. And people from Southeast Asia, we're not really used to it. In the US, that's very different, because majority of the US, a lot of places it doesn't snow. You have the If you take like all the southern states like Texas and Arizona and California, you enjoy good weather over there. That's more closer to the kind of weather that we have in India. But Canadian weather is very, very harsh. So yeah, it only adds to the people's moods, I would say.
All right. All right. Thanks for that take. So, tell me, what was the hype like in Canada about during the T20 World Cup? Were there a lot of people flying down to the US or the Caribbean to watch it? Mostly Indians, I would assume.
Yeah, cricket is always a big part of the subcontinent diaspora. Um, and like you have a lot of Indians in Canada as well as in the US. And what makes it easier for people, at least living here in Canada, is the access to the US. Um, there are regular buses and trains that go to New York City every day from downtown Toronto, and you get there in about 8 to 9 hours, even if you're driving on your own car. And I think the flight is about like an hour duration. So people get pretty excited. People mostly are remain busy with their jobs and their lives. And cricket is not a big part of the North American sports culture, because of which you don't get to see a lot of cricket matches being played. Even when cricket is happening in other parts of the world, it's usually the timings that kind of deter you from watching, because nobody wants to get up that early in the morning when cricket matches are maybe happening in Australia or India or any other part of the world. But even if the timings even match, you're so busy with your life that you kind of get cut off from cricket. Like even for me, I recently just subscribed to Willow TV, which broadcasts all of India matches and even IPL. I didn't watch any of the IPL matches. I was just following the highlights because I just didn't have the time or that kind of inclination or craze that I would probably have when I was in India. But the World Cup, of course, was a big thing, and so I specifically just subscribed to that for the World Cup, and then I unsubscribed, even though there is a series that's going to happen under GG Gautam Gambhir ever since he took the coaching duties of India. But it's just that when you're in India, these things, first of all, internet is very cheap in India, even DTH and everything, cable TV or satellite television is very cheap and affordable in India.
Yeah.
And those are a daily part of your life. You just switch on your TV or you just switch on your laptop and you're like, oh, aaj match aa raha hai, and you just switch on. But over here, it's very different. I don't want
Okay.
to subscribe to something unless it's very, very important because it's like $8, $9 per month. And
Okay.
like half of the sport I don't even watch. So that's why. So yeah,
Hmm.
the craze was big because the World Cup was happening in the US for the first time. I think that was
Okay.
a great way to brand the sport. But yeah, mostly people were excited because of so much less cricket that they get over here.
Okay. Okay. Makes sense. Makes sense. Now, talking about cricket, what do you think about Gautam Gambhir becoming the head coach for India? I have some pretty strong thoughts on it, but what do you think?
Hmm. Me too, actually. I'm very interested to see how Gautam Gambhir's reign starts as the Indian coach. Is very different from Rahul Dravid, who was a pretty, somber kind of an approach and that kind of personality. But those were very different personalities, even while during their playing days. I mean, Gautam Gambhir was this very brash, very in your face kind of a person. And I'm kind of very intrigued to see how he kind of emanates that in his personality during his time as the India coach as well. We saw that even during his time with the two
Yeah.
franchises that he represented, Kolkata Knight Riders and Lucknow Super Giants. He's a
Yeah.
person who's very emotional and he's very emotional to his side and he's always there to stand by them.
Yes.
So I think Harsha Bhogle mentioned recently that he's very bullish about Gautam Gambhir because of the
Mhm.
kind of personality that he is and because of the kind of gravitas that he brings to his credentials and by his very presence. Um, he's not someone who is very, I would say, I mean, I'm comparing his playing days and his personalities. He's
Yeah.
not someone who's very outgoing or someone, but he's very vocal about his views, whether he's a commentator, whether it's his time as a politician or now as the India coach. So I'm kind of interested to see how that transpires. And I want to see. I'm interested in seeing how his take on players are. Like, is he going to be soft on the
Yeah.
players, or is he going to be like is the kind of atmosphere that he's going to create in the dressing room, and how that kind of affects the players? What about you? What do you
Yeah.
think?
I think his tenure is going to be extremely controversial. Okay.
Hmm.
Uh, he is now. I don't want to mention his political innings, but not that it was very stellar, especially in joining a particular party and serving as one of the key candidates in Delhi.
Hmm.
Uh, but he's an astute cricketer and he has been a part of many, many winning squads that has a good track record.
Hmm.
So I'm going to give him the benefit of doubt that he is going to definitely, ensure that we win some crucial ICC trophies than those pointless bilateral, trilateral nonsense trophies. Okay.
Hmm.
Barring a few, I guess, barring the Border Gavaskar trophy, I think most of the other trophies are just useless.
Hmm.
Uh, if you look at some of the teams that are worth playing, then I would say most of them would be Australia, England, New Zealand, and South Africa, I would say. Barring
Hmm.
these, and to a certain extent, even Afghanistan, but barring these, we don't have much competition elsewhere. Which
Hmm.
West Indies, it's as good as doing net practice because of the current state of their team, right?
Hmm.
They lost to England in 2.5 days, and England wrapped up the test match very quickly.
True.
So, I mean, to say that the other five countries are posing a huge challenge is nothing. But I mean, his success will largely depend on the upcoming ICC trophy. Okay,
Hmm.
but I would be very interested to see his tenure. And in the 2028 LA Olympics, where cricket is going to be a sport.
Hmm. Right.
So I'd be very interested to see him take the team over there. Okay. It's going to be a new
Mm,
format. It's going to be
correct.
uh, a new place where we play cricket in the US, though we played it recently, but and it's going to be a new, it's going to be sort of like I would say one of the most important aspects of cricket going global is to introduce it to American audiences.
Yes,
While the
correct.
T20 World Cup did it, but Olympics is as mainstream as goes. Anyways, but before the Olympics, the 2026 T20 World Cup, the Test Championship,
Mm,
and the ODI World Cup.
yeah.
I think if you're able to win all three, he will cement his stature. Lastly, is that a lot of the senior players are going to retire because of him from all the other formats, not just T20, like Kohli,
Mm,
Ravindra
true.
Jadeja, and Rohit, they retired from T20, but he will force out the others as well.
Yeah, I feel the same as well because I think he's going to be bullish on senior players that he's not going to just let someone just extend their tenure just because they've got time on their hands or just because they're a certain kind of player or they have a brand associated with them. And that is something that we saw even in his time in the franchise cricket where that he led
Yes.
as coach.
Yeah, yeah,
That he
yeah.
didn't care about big names, and that's something that is reiterated time and time again in his during his TV interviews or in commentary as well. That and he's been very bullish about RCB as well, where he's been where well RCB is well known for big name individuals, but they've not won a trophy. And so he's not someone who's going to bank a lot on players' names, but it's all going to be about team. And it doesn't really matter how big a name you may be, or it's purely going to be based on what the team requires. That if the team needs a younger team, if some player needs to be shown the door, then I think he's not going to hesitate to do that. Unlike maybe some of the other coaches or maybe some other individual who would have maybe had a soft discussion or maybe would have taken a diplomatic way of doing it. So I agree with you. The Gautam GG era might have some controversies, and I hope those are good, positive controversies instead of fist fight kind of controversies.
Yeah.
So
See, the
kind of
problem
interesting.
is, the issue is that the Indian cricket team is not just filled with athletes but superstars. Given the very high pedestal we keep all of them as
True.
superstars, I mean, it's essentially a team of celebrities than sports
Hmm.
athletes, right? As we've seen in
Right.
other cricketing nations, where cricketers are
Yeah.
treated just like athletes, right?
Right.
Not much fanfare. But here, Gautam
Yeah.
Gambhir with his aggressive approach is going to be very, very difficult for some of them. He's going to have different teams for all the three different formats, different captains
Yeah.
as well.
Hmm.
And this is going to create a huge issue with people. But as long as he wins cups, uh, he's going to be on the good books of people. Just that
Hmm.
the other thing I was seeing the other day is that all the fan clubs, all these so-called unofficial fan clubs of the cricketers, I mean,
Yes.
they are just going to start trolling him. The Rohit Sharma fan club, Virat Kohli fan club. If he ever says
Right.
anything against these OG players, the fan clubs are going to
Hmm.
descend on him.
Yeah. I
Like the
agree. And
public, yeah,
yeah, and I feel like Gigi has a thick skin, and like he wouldn't be phased by them. But obviously, it's going to create some kind of uproar on social media. Right? So I think all of these fan groups that you mentioned are just on their tips, and all you just need is a spark and some kind of a threat or some
yeah.
statement from someone, and they'll just unleash. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how all of that pans out. But I'm like, yeah, I'm interested in seeing how the era begins.
Yeah, because the Indian cricket team coach is not just a team to coach the athletes, but it's also a team, it's also a job to manage the perception. I mean, he has to fight so many PR battles day in and day out. So it's only
True.
going to be a matter of time. And now that he's starting off with the Sri Lanka tour, Okay. Now we'll see how his, how his, what I can say, how his so-called Kolkata Knight Riders kind of the team, kind of the members that is bringing over, sort of complete, and
Yeah.
we'll see how that
Mm.
goes on.
Yeah, man, it'd be
Okay.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, right. So that was about cricket, and then uh, let's move on to the next topic, the Ambani wedding, and not
Hmm.
like we would discuss Ambani wedding in general, but given how much of the world has seen
Hmm.
that literally every celebrity in the world has descended in India, Italy, now in London, probably they're going to the US next. God knows when it's going to stop. Uh, First of all, tell me, what did you see like people in Canada talking about this wedding? Both Indians and
Well,
non-Indians.
I would say the only topic of discussion was among Indians. Unfortunately, not a lot of Canadians talked about it, or maybe they did. I just haven't heard a lot
Because
of
of
hardcore
because of what? Yeah,
Canadians
yeah.
talking about it.
Because of
But
Justin
I
Bieber
would,
coming or something.
well, I would say I think Canadians, and by Canadians I mean non-Indian Canadians. They're not as accustomed to Asian culture. At
Okay.
least, I mean, now they are at least because of social media, because of OTT and everything, and because there are so many Indians over here. But at least now people
Right, right, right.
be cognizant of that. But I
Mhm.
would give it to the media that has covered extensively the Ambani wedding over here. Like there were a lot of entertainment weeklies and nighttime shows like E-Talk and Hollywood Reporter Canada and Entertainment Weekly that did a lot of coverage on the Ambani wedding.
Okay.
Purely, there were a lot of influencers as well doing a lot of rounds over here, and I'm just
Yeah,
speaking
yeah.
Canadian, not even Americans. So
That's
there were
right.
a lot of
Yeah.
rounds because of but they were mainly out of this craze, pure curiosity about who this person really is and what is this ostentatious display of wealth and what do they really mean. What because you have to realize the celebrities that they invited. Like Rihanna hasn't
Yeah.
performed in 9 years and they got her out of retirement.
Yes.
Justin Bieber hasn't performed forever and he performed for the first time on stage, whereas he hasn't been performing for fans for, I don't know, ever since his last album came out, which was like 7, 8 years ago. And
Yeah,
then you
yeah.
got the Backstreet Boys, and then they got every rapper, musician, pop singer under the sun who hasn't performed
I
forever.
think I
Uh,
think
and they,
I think maybe if this goes on, if now it's in London, okay,
yeah,
so he's gonna get Rishi Sunak
yeah,
and Virat Kohli and all those people, of course. Virat Kohli
yeah, dancing and for
surprisingly
God
didn't turn
knows,
up, okay, in
yeah,
the
yeah,
Indian position. He's going to definitely attend the one in London, and then they've
yeah, because
already had the wedding in Italy, so Europe is covered. I think they'll be heading to US next. And in US,
yeah,
they're going to invite Biden, Kamala, and Trump all together, and probably the entire Hollywood. Like, I mean, Hugh Jackman to Brad Pitt. I think they're going to invite everyone.
yeah. I mean,
And
there wouldn't be anyone left in the world for who they wouldn't have invited, and I wouldn't be surprised if the party in London has Britney Spears performing because she hasn't performed in
yeah,
like 15, 10, I don't know how many years.
yes, yes,
And so there was a lot of coverage in Canada regarding this wedding, and people were just judging the kind of amount of money that they were spending, what was being served, the food that they were serving. But they were more focused on Justin Bieber and the performance that they got them to perform for like 10, 15 minutes, and they just squandered like $10 million on it, and it was just insane. And the people just couldn't believe it that their lives were that pathetic, and that some billionaire in Asia could
yeah.
bring in all the who's who of Hollywood
See, like
to
I
perform.
was like, yeah, I was reading like a lot of these news and all, and people abroad think that he's the richest man in Asia. People forget that he's the seventh richest man in the world, not just Asia.
In the world.
So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, and then the money spent is just a drop in the bucket for him. But see, more importantly, sure, I mean we have a issue with. I mean, sure, the problem is that us Indians now we get very jealous whenever somebody spends very lavishly because
mm,
frankly, that is. what a lot of our weddings have become. Lavish weddings,
Mm.
okay, everywhere.
Yeah.
And the amount of money he spent, see, that is his money. He can choose to do whatever he wants. And
True.
like, even I had no problems with it. I like usually don't care. Where I had problems is that this influencer put out a post on
Mm.
LinkedIn, and I hope this
Okay.
podcast when I upload on YouTube does not get banned because of this. Uh, so this influencer put out a post. Her name is Kavya Karnata. That the
Mm.
Ambani's PR team offered her 3.6 lakhs to her and a few other influencers. Okay, to
Okay.
make a video on the economic benefits of the wedding.
Mm.
Like,
Interesting.
and this very famous influencer in India, uh, again, I will not take his name because I don't want this video to get a copyright strike, if at all.
Mm.
This very influencer in India actually did put out a case study talking about how the Ambani wedding will bring in foreign exchange to India. It was the most ridiculous video I've ever seen. I've even gone and commented on the channel. It is like, and he was equating this to Princess Diana's wedding and how the royal family in the
Oh.
UK brings in like $200 million a year to the UK economy. Absolutely ridiculous. And nowhere in the video is it mentioned that it's a paid collaboration, right? So
Surprisingly,
he,
you mentioned this just today itself in the
yeah,
morning because
yeah,
there is a group on WhatsApp called Assamese people in Toronto.
okay,
And because someone I know put me in that group, I have archived that group. I have absolutely no business and no interest in looking at people chatting about the most nonsense stuff. But interestingly, the somebody posted a video. I haven't even opened the video, or whether it's an explanation by himself or some other influencer, where he said how the Ambani wedding was a showcase of India's economic superpower capacities and how it's going to actually bring in FDIs. I don't understand who these influencers are and where they're getting their facts from because FDI in India or investments in India, whether it's from foreign companies or even people within India, has been the lowest in the last 10 years. Like if someone could
yeah,
just
yeah,
Google
absolutely,
or just read some financial dailies or just Google
yeah,
and then
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so it's just so bizarre because it's
I so
far
absolutely agree. I mean,
yeah.
the absolute. See, the problem is not this garish display of wealth. Okay, Indian weddings are known to be like
Hmm,
this, and it is Ambani's
hmm,
personal choice who he calls. From the president
yeah.
of the world to astronauts, even Martian, he can call anyone. The problem is that, when Indian billionaires try to do something, they try to portray themselves as the saviors of the earth. Okay.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they try to portray themselves as the do-gooders. So no problem
Hmm,
that you do the wedding in whatever way you want, man. It's your family, your money, your son. The issue is that
hmm,
why do you have to pay people to, I mean, do, talk good about you, do positive PR, put a spin on it. People will
exactly.
catch it. People will catch it
Yeah.
ultimately. And in the day of social media, you think somebody's not going to talk about it. It's absolutely
Hmm,
ridiculous. I think they need a
yeah.
better PR strategy and a PR team,
Hmm,
whoever is guiding all of them. And I hope this person, this Reliance employee, gets compensated well because the wealth of criticism coming down on them is just absolutely ridiculous. And talking
I
about, you
agree.
very so rightly mentioned about FDI, we had the budget
Hmm,
today. Okay.
okay.
And guess what is one of the features of the budget? One of the features of the budget is that India is now focusing
Hmm.
on attracting more FDI from China.
Oh.
Okay. India does not just
Hmm,
want to be an alternative to China. India wants to attract more Chinese companies. You are so right that
hmm,
the FDI in India has been at a low, okay,
hmm,
for so many years right now. And
hmm.
we have not been able to like create good jobs. Okay,
Right.
the job crisis in Asia, you know very well. Whatever is
Hmm.
happening in India, Bangladesh, and like in Southeast Asia, there are no good quality jobs anymore. I mean,
Right.
people, and I don't think it's just in Asia, but across the world, right? Like in
Hmm.
Canada,
Yeah.
so many Indians are
Hmm.
lining up for jobs to be cashiers at Walmarts and supermarkets.
Yeah.
So
It's very grim.
here, here it is. People may have seen, 10,000 people land up for 10 spots. And
Yeah, just the
and it's
recent video for the Air India,
Air India thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the Air India job. It's just
Then in another
nonsense.
city, I forget the city, there was a literal stampede. Okay.
Yeah, it was in Gujarat. It was
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Gujarat.
Gujarat. Yeah, and
Yeah,
Gujarat is one of the richest states in India, where, of
exactly.
course, I mean, business states. And I now see why a lot of millionaires and rich people are actually migrating out of India, especially to
Hmm.
US, where not
Hmm.
that US is a tax haven like the Middle East, but at
Hmm.
least for the tax they pay, they get a better quality of life, I would say. At least this is what
Yeah.
the billionaires are saying. And seeing the
Hmm.
intense competition and the scrutiny they're getting, they're like, might as well stay outside of India, isn't it?
Exactly. Exactly. Like
Yeah, and
I
yeah,
mean, even if I were to temporarily buy this argument that, oh, Ambani is putting up an exhibition of his wedding because it will attract foreign investors. Seriously, you have to put your kid through a wedding. You have to put up a global wedding, hire influencers, call the Kim Kardashians of the world who have absolutely no business holding hands and welcoming into your party. You think that's going to, if that is going to bring FDI into India, then what is the government doing? Whoever it is, I'm not
yeah,
personally attacking the BJP or whatever. What is the government and this industrialist of the country doing that
yeah,
that an Indian billionaire has to put up a show of his son's wedding to invite investors?
yes,
This is the most
yeah,
bizarre
yeah.
story.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like, we are not focusing our resources on the right thing. Like, we
Mm,
are not able to retain the smart people, first of all. The IT and the IM folks, they're all going abroad, mostly to US.
mm,
Okay.
mm,
Europe is, I think, taking away all the Europe, I'm not sure, economic crisis over there,
mm,
but all the good scientists are going
mm,
to Zurich, Paris, and things.
mm,
In the name of AI, we have a bunch of startups that just mimic what their counterparts do in the US. Okay,
mm,
and our IT is still so dependent on US and Europe.
mm,
Okay, as clients,
mm,
that we are instead of focusing on manufacturing and
mm,
giving tax benefits to companies. We are just now we are just going back to again China, and this is just a slightly sad state. I'm very hopeful
mm.
that perhaps we can turn it around, but let's see. Let's see. I
Yeah.
mean, this government can do it
Mm,
as of now, at least. While it may be a coalition government, but they have some sort of strength in terms of the party being in majority in other countries,
mm.
in many states
Yeah.
rather. But
Mm.
uh, but I think we need to, number one, not only stem this immigration going to other country, but most importantly
Yeah.
get people from other countries to come to India. Very importantly, well, like
Yeah,
you may
man.
have
Of
heard,
course.
this recent bill. It has passed in two states, two cities especially, two states, Haryana and Karnataka, thereby impacting
Okay.
Bangalore and Gurgaon, where there was
Mm.
reservation. And Bangalore and Gurgaon
Mm.
have the most IT companies and most MNCs in India. Okay,
Okay.
that only locals would get jobs, primarily reservation.
Okay.
And this is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, why is an Apple or a Google or a Microsoft going to set up one in India when we're just fighting, just trying to go for
For among,
reservations? Absolutely
yeah,
crazy.
exactly. It's just bizarre. It doesn't make any sense. Like yeah, like why would foreign companies then invest in your country if you're just giving preference to,
Yes,
and you're
yeah,
having a reservation system in jobs is, man.
yeah. And talking about migration, this thing, I think recently Trudeau was seen dancing with the Punjabi community, trying to win them over. That
Oh
happened, right?
yeah, there are always acts happening. I think he went to Diljit concert as well to surprise me.
Yeah, he went to
Even
Diljit.
though Yeah, he went to the Diljit concert that happened in Toronto recently, even though I think that was completely pre-planned. And I believe uh, Diljit was obviously given a lay down
Heads
that
up.
he's going to surprise you and blah blah. I don't buy that it was a surprise, even though it was made to look like it was a surprise visit.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
Trudeau
it
is in
does.
coalition. Yeah, but government is in coalition with the NDP, which is led by a Sikh
So
leader.
he
And
has some slightly, I guess, I think he has some slightly extremist views.
He has
Like,
slightly extremist views and painted as a pro-Palestinian supporter, what have you. So his government needs the
yeah,
backing of the NDP to stay in power. But
okay,
but the Liberal Party lost the Toronto by-elections, which is, and Toronto is a Liberal hub. They have never lost
okay,
in Toronto. So for them to lose in
okay.
Toronto is ominous. These are
Yeah,
ominous
yeah,
signs. And the the popular vote is obviously for his counterpart, and the people are fed up with his policies and his demeanor and everything. So he's definitely going out of power. But these are obviously ways to keep the community appeasement
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, going. And everything. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of what happens in Canada now impacts India so much.
Oh
Uh,
yes.
yeah, and then Canada is, I mean, the world may not, I don't know, like if you've seen that we'll cover probably the next time, the
Hmm.
Spain, this how the Spaniards are throwing the tourists away from Spain
Hmm.
because of
Hmm.
increased pricing and inflation and lack of jobs. The world is
Okay.
so dependent on Indians that essentially we are driving the remittance economy and the student population in UK, Australia, Saudi Arabia, and many countries.
Hmm.
Like I think the Canadian economy would probably not do very well if all the Indians came back. There are over 200,000 Indian students only, and I would say millions of residents.
Yeah, the Indian students contribute, like the student community itself brings in 17 trillion dollars every year,
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah,
it
yeah.
may be $17 billion, sorry, $17 billion every year. So it's a big industry.
Jesus.
Uh,
Wow.
so,
That's it.
and international students pay three times more than what the locals pay. Like if I were to give you a brief little financial laydown, so like if you go to grad school, if you go to a college here,
Okay.
a native would pay like $5,000
Okay.
for 2 years, but the international
Okay. You
student
pay
will
much
pay
more.
17,000. Yeah, he pays 17 to $18,000, sometimes even more.
Acha.
So that is thrice the amount of money that international students bring in. But that is the lay of the land,
Makes
and
sense.
so they bring in a huge amount of wealth that keeps
Hmm.
the economy running. And what people also have to understand here is that unlike the US, which is a much more dynamic, self-sufficient, and more stronger economy,
Yeah.
Canada is not a self-sufficient and a very diverse and vibrant economy like the US. It's
Okay.
heavily dependent on the US and other countries, and so they
Okay.
definitely need the immigrant population to keep their
Hmm.
economy afloat.
Okay. All right. All right. All right. We've run out of time. Thanks so much,
Yeah.
man, for giving us some insights from Canada. Until next time, we'll try to do this once a week. So take care.
Okay.
Have a great day. Bye bye.
You too, man. It was great fun, and we'll do this again soon.
Bye.
See you.